Joe, last week I came out here and I said, okay, that, and I went back and watched it because there were so many people in the comments ripping me up. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just find out. Did I say something outrageous? No, I didn't. So I went back and watched it, and I was like, wait, I picked Oregon by 14 plus.
What was the final score?
What happened? I said that Utah would get suffocated offensively. They did. And I said Bo Nix would come out. They'd come out firing on all cylinders early. They would take a lot of punches deep. They'd take a lot of shots deep. This running game would get going. That was your biggest take, is that you thought that Bucky Irving and crew would get rolling early, and they did. Utah's just not a great team. I know that game was at home. I know crazy things in the month of October happen when you go play Utah at that stadium. Doesn't matter. They're not a good football team offensively. They are great defensively. A lot of people thought this game would be close. I never once did, because I know what my eyes are telling me. Oregon is bigger. They were faster. I felt like they were better coached offensively. The personnel that they have offensively is not great. We talked about even in the non-playing portion of the year, Joe, I said if they have a couple injuries up front, they're in trouble. They had a couple of guys banged up early that would wind up coming back. Oregon was teeing off on them. 2 freshmen that are in the mix there, they did not look great. I thought that this was a very big statement by Oregon. The Flying V is back. Dan Lanning and company, they are back in the mix, and people are like, oh, okay, Oregon's just, Oregon might have just lost to a really good Washington team. That's how the public sees it. I think Utah's going 8-4, 9-3, and I think Oregon's still on track to do what I picked them in the preseason, and that being win the Pac-12.
It's kind of funny looking back at this and knowing that the Utah fans were so upset at you, because I basically said the same thing, but I added a qualifier. I thought that what you were saying was going to play out, but I said, but I can't fully commit to it because of where this game is being played.
And that saved you from a week's worth of absolutely getting ripped up in the comments. That's what happened.
Right. But with that in mind, we have to revisit what was discussed during that preview. That this home stadium, Utah's home field, they were on an 18-game winning streak, I believe was what it was at.
Yeah,
that is
games, man.
Still one of the hardest places to win in the country. And I also think they were 27 for 28 in addition to that winning streak that they have. It is so hard to win at Utah. For Oregon to go in there and win, and not only win, but do it as dominantly as they did. And I understand Utah is banged up right now. They are dealing with issues. But for them to accomplish what they did against Utah with all of those challenges of having to play at that location is telling to me that Oregon will make the playoff. They are. It has been completely reaffirmed for me that they are one of the most well-rounded teams in the country. They can throw the ball and pick up third downs with ease. Bucky Irving is very elusive and is a great running back. Bo Nix is a balanced quarterback who can run and can throw. And that defense on a week-to-week basis is only getting better.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think by the end of the season, they're going to be even better than they were against Washington, and they're going to fix some of those mistakes.
If Dan Lanning fixes some things, I think that they do beat them if they face off again. But my big takeaway from this game, Joe, other than Utah just being absolutely suffocated off. I mean, look, they had got some things going. They got 6 points, but man, Bryson Barnes just I feel bad for the kid because I feel like people make it seem like I don't like the kid. No, it's not that. I really don't know if Bryson Barnes has the personnel around him to take on a team.
No, he doesn't.
Like Oregon. The thing that I walk away from this game, man, Bo Nix made a lot of big-time throws on third down. A lot of clutch throws on third down. I'm not going to come out here and act like Utah's defense is a slouch. They're not. They're, like, again, we said, really well coached. Kyle Whittingham is one of the best just overall head coaches that you're going to find. But Bo Nix just said he didn't care. And on third down, I remember they hit an in route. I think it was to Franklin. just in stride. I think it was 3rd and 11, and Bo Nix continued to show why a lot of people are high on him and why they think that this team is very complete. But in that second half, when some adjustments got to be made, Oregon kind of got suffocated in that third quarter now. They kind of got suffocated. And I was like, did they find something?
Are we going to criticize the team because they played not as good as they could have for one quarter, though? Like, that seems a little nitpicky. I get what you're saying, but if we pull back a little bit and think about what we're talking about, because I don't disagree with that statement.
-1 yards in a quarter?
Yeah, but then what did they do in the fourth quarter? They pulled away. And
they had like 250.
Well,
you're right.
What I'm getting at.
That is really nitpicky. I will.
Well, that's proof that how good they are. That we have to find ways to. We have to. It's hard to find the negatives with them. That's it for me. And the negatives this season have been a bad quarter against Utah at Utah and bad decision making against Washington by Dan Lanning.
Very true. I do. It's a good point. It's a really good point. Look, I think Oregon can continue to run this thing. I still think that they're going to win it all in the Pac-12. They're still my team. I'm going to roll with them, and I like it. Let me ask you this question though, because we've talked a lot about Oregon. Let's talk a little bit about Utah. Joe, I just think it's a transition year. I think it's a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just think they're so bad on offense that it's going to take. Look, they're going to have – I don't know if Utah would do this. I don't know if they would want to go in the portal. They're going to have to go in the portal and get some weapons on the outside, because if you got to go down and score, look, you can have good physical offensive linemen, good backs, good tight ends. Joe, if you don't have a dude that can win on the outside, you're in trouble, buddy. You're in trouble in college football. You got to have somebody that can go out there and win on the outside.
I know firsthand. I know firsthand, being a Notre Dame fan.
Oh, I wonder who also said that they don't have good enough weapons on the outside.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, and I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a transition year. I just think it's a bad year where they caught a lot of injuries and not having.
I don't know how much Cam Rising saves this stuff,
but
Joe.
They also would have Kuth, who's an All-American tight end. Who, imagine their offensive production would have been if they at least had him. And they realized all the injuries helped them realize that they can use Sion Vaki as a good weapon, who is the safety running back hybrid. I will say this, though. I'd be very wary of what they do next year. I don't know what Cam Rising does, but maybe they figure out that quarterback position. Maybe they go and grab somebody. Maybe Nate Johnson develops a little bit. They have a pretty good young core. Jonah Ellis probably comes back, is leading the country with sack production, pressure production. And then Spencer Fanu on their offensive line has been steady, and he's a freshman. I think that there's a lot of really good pieces for that team.
I agree.
They'll be fine in the Big 12. Dude, I said this when we did that one show where we got a lot of views for when there was all the conference realignment madness. Utah landing in the Big 12, that is a perfect conference for them to dominate because they are built so differently from the rest of those teams.
And they will continue to be. And you know what? I will give them this, dude. That interior of that defensive line is young and ruthless. Like, I do think in 2 years when these guys are, older, that they could definitely be something. I just don't know. Look, do I think the game's closer against Oregon if Cam Rising plays? Yeah. Do I think that they beat Oregon State? Yes, I actually do think that they beat Oregon State. But I still think that they're flawed. And I think that and look, Cam Rising could be out there just absolutely slinging, but I don't think Bryson Barnes played bad, man. I really don't think Bryson Barnes played bad. He was 15 of 29, 136, 2 interceptions. Man, he was under duress all night. He was under duress all night long. He was getting hit, getting back up. Sometimes, again, I just look at them as a flawed team offensively. They're going to have to do something, but I do agree that they can win in the Big 12. Another thing about this game, Joe, that I really like before we move on here, I just like how – look, I know that Dan Lanning is a Kirby disciple. I love how physical they play up front. I mean, offensively. This is back-to-back big performance or big-time games where that offensive line looked really good, like really good. I did not know that Oregon, if Dan Lanning would establish that quickly, how physical they can be. But my goodness, man, they are so physical. Like, I watched their offensive line tape today. They are as technically sound as you're going to find in the country. The question becomes, though, man, on pass downs, they can be a little chaotic, but, man, they can run the football effectively. They are a very physical football team. And let's see how Dan Lanning's able to continue to put these classes together. Maybe they are as physical to go into the Big Ten. Maybe we're not giving them enough credit on how physical this team can be.
Yeah, they're not built like a Pac-12 team. They feel like they're built more like Michigan and Ohio State, and it always comes down to the defensive line, the offensive line. They're going to probably, all three of these guys are going to be gone next year, but they have one of the best tackle pairings in the country.
And
their starting center is going to be possibly highly drafted if he declares one of the top centers in the class. That offensive line, as you said, phenomenal. And if they continue to succeed and they run the table, it's going to be because of them.